Have you ever experienced a study session in which you were so completely absorbed in the text or whatever you were reading that you had no sense of time? You were completely absorbed and one with the content. You had no notion of what's happening around you, perhaps no notion even of your body, and completely just concentrated on whatever you were doing, completely in connection with consonants and relating to whatever you were doing, such that it was like a movie perhaps in your mind while you were studying, while you were learning. This is a state of deep focus. This is a state of flow, which I've been talking about. And today we are going to talk about how exactly to tap into this state on demand, how exactly to do so that you can command your mind to enter into it when you wish to during your study sessions, not just on random moments when it chooses to enter into this state, which is exactly the issue with the uh, state of flow, with the state of productivity. There is no button as such which you can press and enter into it. It doesn't just start functioning on any autopilot. You can't just choose to enter into it. You need to prime a number of systems in your body and your mind so that it becomes conducive, so that the state is achieved. You know, because you've achieved this state before, sometime or the other, if not during study, then perhaps during an examination, where before you realize it, the whole thing passes in the blink of an eye, right? So we'll be using the research from this thoroughly researched area of psychology of cognitive science to figure out what are the actionable steps for us to use. We'll be following a protocol. I'll be sharing some resources which I haven't shared before with anyone, which I myself use and have been using over a number of years to good effect. And we will also be going through a secret ritual towards the end of this session. It will be a few minutes of experience in which we'll use some music, some NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and some other techniques which I have learned over the years to put your mind in the ideal state of mind, such that once this session is over, you can always come back to that portion of the video towards the end and watch this ritual and get used to it and use it while just before your study sessions. But before you can do any of this, you need to understand what the rules of engagement are. How do you engage your mind such that you can enter into this state seamlessly? And the first thing you need to understand is that there is no such thing as multitasking. You cannot multitask. And when I say you, I don't mean just you personally. I mean any human. Humans can't, they just can't multitask. The brain is not designed for it. Research has constantly and repeatedly confirmed that when people think that they're multitasking, what they're essentially doing is switching attention rapidly between two activities. And productivity in both activity falls, right? So multitasking is a myth. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen. So what do we do with this piece of insight? Here is what we do. You should have exactly one goal in front of you before that study session. Like in previous videos, we spoke about having 3 goals a day, 3 tasks a day, and then breaking them apart. And those work on a scale of days. You need to have 3 days in a week. But what about a study session? In a study session, no more than one agenda, no more than exactly one task, one book, one resource, one thing, and that thing should be crystal clear. So that multitasking is not an issue. And this highlights and actually underscores exactly what my next point is, which I need to convey to you, which is very important, is that there should not be any confusion between you planning, spending time on planning and strategizing, and learning content. They are two different things. They recruit two completely different modes of thinking, two completely different modules of the mind, so to speak, and they should not be mixed. Here's what happens by way of example. Say you want to study this book, NCERT geography, and you have every intention to do so. You have every intention to go through it and to learn as much as possible, and you've sincerely uh, you sat yourself down, you do everything by the book, everything is proper, everything is great, but before you know it, you start to skim through it and you realize it has a number of pages, and you realize those pages have chapters, and then you realize that you're going to take a while to go through this, and you start to work backwards and start to calculate how much time it's going to take, how much energy it's going to take, how many days you have left, and then you try to reverse engineer the whole thing, and before you realize it, you are completely lost to the point of having learned no geography whatsoever. You learned absolutely no geography or anything written in this text whatsoever because you engaged yourself in a completely different set of tasks, mental tasks, which is planning. This does not mean that planning and content learning are uh, perhaps one is more important than the other. They are both very important. There is a separate time which you will need to carve out, which you should carve out for planning. I do this extensively myself. In my opinion, the ideal amount of time for planning separately is 1 or 2 hours a week. That is more than enough. I use it extensively. This is the diary which I have used this entire year, and I have not been completely fully consistent with it, but I have used it extensively and I have always been able to come back on track whenever after a few days I feel lost. I feel like I don't know where I'm going. I feel like my goals are not really aligned with the larger picture or whatever it is that I'm trying to do. I always come back to it and it never fails to help me get back on track. If you're a UPSC aspirant, this navigator is supposed to do exactly that. Now, whether you use this navigator or you use another system, the point is that they should not be mixed. They're completely different things, and planning is different from content learning. Treat it accordingly and don't mix the two at all. The other thing you need to realize is that in those productive study sessions, in those good study sessions where you were able to concentrate and learn, and those sessions form the basis of your knowledge network and you want to tap into them again and again, you had those sessions because you did not have an aching back or a stubbed toe or something in your body uh, not allowing you to concentrate, because you have to realize focus is also a state of body. If your body is uncomfortable, if it is perhaps bloated, or if it is unwell, you cannot focus. It needs to be the body as well as the mind. The body is the enabling factor. Once that factor is enabled, once that criteria is crossed, then you need to prime your mind and get into this state. And we'll talk about how to do both. We'll talk about the body and we'll talk about the mind also. But first, coming to the body, this is a very important issue to speak about, and I guess I should address it in this session rather than other sessions. I have been asked this repeatedly. What is the optimal level of exercise? One thing to clarify is that as a UPSC aspirant, or anybody as a student perhaps, or anybody following a goal which is not fitness oriented, the reason you should exercise, must exercise, is that you cannot have a healthy brain without it. Your exercise regime should be centered around brain health, around optimal efficiency of the brain, around making sure it is optimized to the level that your memory, your information processing, and everything is optimized. Not, but not to look better and to perhaps cut fat or to build muscle. That should not be your goal during preparation. And it wasn't mine. I had a completely different set of goals when I was doing bodybuilding and powerlifting, but I never had that goal during preparation, and neither should you. So when you exercise, the optimal amount of time when you can get the benefits of it is around 4 to 5 hours a week, according to research and according to also the perspective of keeping the brain healthy. So what exercise does is something called neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is you actually creating new brain cells. Your brain creates new nerve cells, new neurons can be manufactured in the brain. Neurogenesis is the process by which that happens. It has been recently proved and shown that neurogenesis occurs in humans all throughout life. And earlier it was believed that it stops at a certain age, but that hasn't been found to be true. It continues throughout life if the brain is challenged and if it is used successfully. HIIT, high intensity interval training, and cardiovascular exercise are both documented and known to cause neurogenesis. So I'll be suggesting a basic template of exercising, of weekly workout designed around this brain efficiency perspective, and you can go through it and you can use it in the confines of your home without even requiring much equipment. But make sure while you exercise that you don't push yourself beyond 70% of your max. Around 70% of your max is the limit where you should go, because you don't want to deplete your willpower. Remember that. It's not just about physical energy, it's about that mental energy which we spoke about earlier. Willpower needs to be intact. You don't want exercise to drain you. You want it to make you feel more active, more energetic, right? Remember that. Then comes the role of sleep. And I cannot stress this enough. This is absolutely essential and important. You have to realize that every nervous system needs to sleep. Recent research now is telling us that snails sleep. Every animal sleeps, perhaps, and even fish sleep, because all nervous systems have to do that. It is a basic evolutionary requirement. It is not something to be sacrificed, like some students think. It is not something to be compromised on at all. This is the fuel which your brain needs. If you're sleeping properly, and there is a way to do it, if you're doing that the way it should be, your brain is going to be much healthier than somebody who's not. In fact, case in point is studies in sleep deprivation. When humans are deprived, the brain actually shrinks. And if sleep deprivation is carried on for a while, the brain actually starts to eat itself. It will start to metabolize its own tissue, right? That is the effect which bad sleep and perhaps insomnia and any other sleep disturbance can have. Make sure that the sleep is good quality. Make sure that you get the optimal amount. According to research and according to most templates, the ideal amount is 6 to 8 hours a night, punctuated with around a 30 to 40 minute nap a day. Punctuated by the 30 to 40 minute nap a day. One of those naps is sufficient if you can get it, but make sure that nap is very high quality sleep. It can't just be sleep where you're just dozing off. Make sure that your body is relaxed. It should be done properly in your resting area as much as you can afford. Do what you can. And even if you can't, there are some ways to induce deep sleep. One way to induce deep sleep is to cover your eyes and make sure no light enters it, and especially blue light. Blue light is shown to activate the nervous system much more than red light. So you should stay away from staring at your phones at all, completely, in fact, during that time. Make sure that you have some kind of auditory input in your ears. So I use a particular type of vibrations to induce deep sleep, which I'll share with you. You can try it out yourself. It always helps me feel refreshed, and I've had good results with it. There is also some research which suggests that this works. So you will have that with you, and I'll link it for you. But don't compromise and don't skimp on sleep, right? Make sure that it is absolutely essential. The other point is set and setting. Set and setting is the environment, and it is the place in which you study. And this goes beyond the study, and I'll tell you about how to actually harness it. But again, very solid basis on research. Your memory, your moods, your states of mind are cue dependent. They're cue dependent. That means that your brain adjusts itself according to the environment subconsciously. So for instance, if you go to a cricket stadium where the environment is very celebratory or jubilant, or the entire energy level is so high, your brain, your body will automatically amp up your adrenaline levels, your heartbeat will increase, and you won't have any conscious control over this. While at the same time, you walk into a cinema hall where everybody is just hushed up and it's pin drop silence, and automatically your system will quiet down and you'll know not to make noises. This is cue dependency, and you should harness this as much as possible. How do you do that? One, spread some cues and some triggers, symbols, which enable you to enter into that state of mind which you need to enter into. This navigator is supposed to do that, but doesn't matter if you use other systems. Whatever you do, make sure there are cues which remind you. The other thing which I have myself used quite extensively is the principle that you should not use your study room for anything else other than studying. There should be clear distinctions in your study room. In fact, I have no qualms in saying that I treat this room as my temple. I really do. I come into this room with a sense of humility and a sense of gratitude that yes, I have a room like this. I have a space where I can learn and where I can enrich myself, and I consider that as a luxury. This is the relationship I have built with this room over time. Again, this is based on very logical, cogent reasons, and it has contributed to my learning in significant ways. You should do the same. Your study room should be a sanctuary, a temple, a very sacred place for you. Don't use it. Don't eat there. Don't chat with friends there. Don't even talk on the phone there. If you have, or you have to attend a phone call, get up from there, attend it in another place. But over there, in your study area, nothing else but study, but concentration, but trying to achieve that state of flow, right? The same rule applies for your sleep area. This is something which sleep therapists also use extensively. Do not do anything other than sleeping in your sleep area as much as you can. Make sure that there is a clear distinction. between those areas, because like I mentioned, cue dependency, as you approach that sleep area, and if you have sleep disturbances or issues, if you use it for other things, your mind will prime itself not to sleep, right? But if you use it only for sleep, before you know it, subconsciously it will pick up on all the cues which you won't even notice, and it will start to bring down your heartbeat. It will start to make your breath shallow, and it will start to put you into a more relaxed state automatically. This is the power of set and setting, and it should be used extensively. I use it, and I highly recommend that you do too. Next comes an insight which there is no easy way about. You see, the problem with what you're trying to do and getting into the state of deep focus, of course, after priming the body and doing all of the things which I mentioned, you will need to actually concentrate at some point. Here's the trick, and something which I would like to share with you, which I've learned the hard way. Do not try too hard. This thing is very tricky. This is tricky business. This attention training is tricky because we rarely have any access to that level of mind where we can actually control how much attention we pay to whatever we're trying to do. Most of the times we consider this to be a challenge and we focus too hard. The thing with the attention and with that muscle is that as soon as you focus too hard, soon as you try too hard, it goes away. It's like water, it's like sand, this attention. If you try to grab too much of it and you try to focus too hard, you will get nothing but a headache. You will learn no content. It just happens in just that sweet spot between dullness and between excitation. You have experienced this before, between a state of sleepiness in which you feel dull and all you want to do is just space out and sleep and perhaps take a nap, and you can't really make yourself to read an NCRT, let alone a complicated book like Lakshmikant or whatever, right? So you cannot try too hard, you cannot be too sleepy, you need to find a balance, and I'll tell you about this right now, which is to also reiterate basically what I was saying about balance, in the sense that now think about the body and try to make sure the balance comes from that body. How do you do that? Listen to the heartbeat. Is it shallow? Is it slow, or is it fast? And you will realize how it's doing when you sit down and you start to feel your pulse, and you take a moment of mindfulness to just come back to the body and listen to the signals that the body is giving you. If the heartbeat is too high, you will not be able to concentrate because your body will be in a fight or flight type of situation. It's not conducive for concentration. Concentration happens in that sweet spot, like I mentioned. Optimal arousal is important, and in the things that are coming next, I'll be telling you exactly how to do so. Now comes the best part. Now comes the juicy part. Now comes the part you've been waiting for. How to enter into this flow state? What are the secret shortcuts, and are there any? Yes, there are many. How do you get there is the trick, and is the question. I'm happy to share some very interesting ideas with you, which I have experienced over a number of years, mostly in meditation retreats. I have been to 5 of them and spent more than 30 days in silent retreat. And by now I must have many hundreds of hours of meditation training under my belt, which essentially qualifies me to talk about it. I'm not a qualified teacher of meditation, not that qualified, but enough to tell you a thing or two about how to really do this. Use biofeedback. Meditation masters, Buddhist masters, and anybody who is actually doing any type of mind control, whether that's a gymnast or it's a race car driver or it's a chess player, is using biofeedback extensively. What is biofeedback? Biofeedback is the signal which your body is giving you at that particular point in time. Even right now, do this exercise with me. Take a moment to feel what your body feels like at this moment. Start with your feet, for instance. Wiggle your toes. Feel the sensations of the footwear on the palm of your feet. Notice where your legs touch the chair. Notice where tension is in your body. Notice how your gut feels, how your stomach feels. Then notice the heartbeat, if you can. Notice the breath as it goes in, comes out. As you develop this awareness of noting it, you will realize that during study sessions, during states of study, It's either too high or it's too low, right? And you will have to achieve that state of balance, like I mentioned, but you can't enter it before you have certain biofeedback. This is the first step which starts the process. You want to enter into a state of flow, first listen to biofeedback. Listen to the signals of the body, listen to the breath. Is it shallow? Is it fast? Is the heartbeat slow? Is it racing? What is happening to the body? What's it saying? Where is the discomfort? Take a moment, allow it to bring you back into the moment. It will do it instinctively. You see, what we are essentially doing from a psychological cogitative point of view is we are stopping the thinking process for an instance and diverting the mind towards uh, what is happening now, what is happening here, by using the body as an anchor. The body is an anchor, you know, it's already always there. It's always there. It doesn't ever leave us. It's us who leave it when we get lost in thought or we get lost in our phones or whatever it is that we do. We rarely ever come back to it and feel it. You might feel it for a few moments at the time of sleep, or you definitely feel it when it hurts you, but we usually don't connect with it on a regular basis. This is the basis of all mindfulness practices. This is what you need to harness. Come back to the body by listening to its signals. In the secret ritual that we do, I will give you some guided meditation techniques to do so. Another thing worth doing is, if you want to concentrate and if you want to enter into the state of flow, make sure that some form of sensory deprivation is used. You cannot do this in a very crowded environment. So one issue which most people have, especially in our country, is noise pollution. You should be able to cut out the noise, cut out that sense modality entirely if possible. I use it extensively. I use a number of meditation and some vibrations, some binaural beats as well, to enter into the flow state, which I'll be telling you about, which you can also use. This sensory deprivation also works with sleep. Like I mentioned, that 30 to 40-minute sleep, sensory deprivation of the eyes and blocking light, and also sensory deprivation from the auditory signals from your ears. And if you can listen to some sleep music, will induce better quality sleep over time. You need to get used to it, but it's a matter of personal preference. But I recommend it because it has worked for me over the years. One powerful mechanism of entering into flow states or states of deep sleep, depending on what you are trying to do, is to use hemi-sync meditation. This meditation has been designed by some people, and supposedly two different sets of frequencies are outputted through the left ear and the right ear when you're using earphones or earplugs or whatever. And supposedly the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere are enabled, are helped perhaps to sync with one another. Now, this you might have heard before. The right hemisphere is known for certain types of functions, and the left one is known for certain types of functions. For instance, if you say somebody that you're left-brained, you're essentially saying that you're logical and analytical and mathematical type of person. And the right brain person is more creative, artistic, aesthetically inclined, and so on and so forth. What happens when the two are combined is optimal functioning. Now, this is not entirely scientifically proven, this hemisync meditation, but anecdotally, and I think in principle, in theory, it works because I've used it, and it has definitely takes you from a state of mind in which you're agitated, just somehow focuses you there, and it takes you there. It doesn't put you there for a very long time, but it takes you there. That barrier can be crossed very soon with this hemisync meditation. I am sharing and linking that. You can use it. Use it while you are studying. Use it while you are sleeping, depending on what you require and what you need to do. Don't overuse it. Help perhaps for 10-15 minutes, maybe, just to get into the zone, and then you can put it out or you can stop it or whatever. Another thing which I use, a very interesting use of binaural beats. Now, binaural beats are there are sets of frequencies actually, which people have been experimenting for a while, which supposedly can lead to improved sleep, cure for depression, or at least abatement of the symptoms of depression, and some many other benefits are promised. But I've used binaural beats before. But the problem with them is that there are way too many now on the internet. I'm sure you've used some focus music or something at some point in your life, and the most scientific proper way of doing it would be binaural beats, but which ones to follow? Because there are just way too many. And most of them I find are very distracting. They're very distracting, and I don't think that they are very conducive to study. I have found over the course of my meanderings, one or two which are very effective. I'll be sharing them and linking them here. These can be used if you are doing something slightly repetitive, right? So plug that soundtrack on and go into that session. Let it focus you for 10-15 minutes. Use it to get into the zone, and then either reduce the volume or just put it out. Or if you can manage your attention without it, it would be best. So I'm linking Hemisync as well as binaural beats, the best one which I have found so far for you. You can use a combination or you can use one depending on whatever your brain likes better. I'll be sharing them with you. This is, I suppose, the most important part of your preparation, of your priming, of the steps which you need to follow to enter into flow states. State of intention. What is your intention? What are you trying to do? You see, if you're entering into a state of flow, it's a golden opportunity to give some command to your brain to make it do what you want to do, right? It doesn't happen if it doesn't know what it is required to do at that time. Once you have completely narrowed down the options which it has, so that it is not going to do planning, you've decided that it's going to do exactly geography, and it's going to do exactly geography in this much amount of time, and it needs to get interested in it, and so on and so forth. The intention should be clear. The intention should be stated. When we do the secret ritual now, I will walk you through an anthem, an incantation, in fact, a mantras of sorts, and a silent guided meditation, which can take you into this state. It will last a few minutes. I hope that you use it well, and that it does have the effect on you which it has on me. If it works even to a percentage of that, you will see and should see a noticeable improvement in your level of focus and attention. So we'll be doing that next. This ritual is a guided meditation which is best done when you are in your study area and preferably sitting down. So settle down in your chair and close your eyes. Keep your back straight, but notice any tension or any stress. Keep it straight, but don't stress yourself or tighten yourself too much. Now start to become aware of the sensations in your toes and start scanning these sensations upwards. As you experience the sensations in your ankles and you approach your calves, up through the knees, all the way up to your stomach, through the chest, through the neck, through your shoulders, and up to your head. As you become aware of your body, feel your stomach and release any tension. Release any tension from your shoulders if they are too tight. Release any tension from your stomach. And now start to become aware of your breath. Feel your breath. Feel it going in. Feel it coming out. Notice how it feels when it strikes the nostrils and a gulp of air goes down into your lungs. Notice the exhalation in the same way. Try to breathe in all the way to your stomach. Try to breathe in all the way down deep into your stomach. Take 3 deep breaths. Take 3 deep breaths. As your body now relaxes and your heartbeat slows down and your breath becomes more shallow. Start to think about your goal. Start to think about that specific task which you set out to do, which you wanted to do in this study session. Think about it with humility. Think about it with the humility of a student, somebody who wants to learn, somebody who strives to learn, somebody who enjoys to learn. Know that the place where you are sitting is your temple. It is where you will create your destiny. This is a special place. Ask for knowledge. Want knowledge. Say to yourself that you want to learn. Say to yourself that you want to be curious. You want to know about that topic and the subject which you are about to be. You are curious about it. You wish to know. You desire to know. You strive to know. You will rejoice when you get to know and you want to know more. Stoke your appetite for it. Know that this is a precious time which you are getting for enriching yourself, for increasing your knowledge, for creating your destiny. Know that learning is a luxury. Enjoy the process. Remember, while studying, and remind yourself, if you fail to concentrate, or if your mind goes into sleep or dullness, you will gently bring it back. And if it goes into excitation, you will gently bring it back. Do not admonish yourself. Do not castigate yourself. Be gentle with yourself. As your attention wanders, as it inevitably will, bring it back with gentleness and try to focus again on the content which you wish to learn. You will study well. Say to yourself, I will study well, I will learn, I will complete my goal, then I will learn more and I will enjoy myself, and that you will follow this, and that you will follow your goal and you will achieve what you set out to achieve. Now slowly begin to open your eyes and become aware of your surroundings. Reinstate your intentions and approach your content, your study material with a clean heart and learn what you can.